Mortal Kombat 1, a game that sorta lived up to its potential? I don't know. So, this game is tricky because looking at it from 2026, it's been one of the more controversial games in Mortal Kombat history. Now, I loved playing Mortal Kombat since I was a kid. It was one of my childhood games, and I wish this franchise ultimate success. Success to the top. This is my favorite franchise. I love it more than Street Fighter. I love it more than Tekken, although I know those are technically better games. I grew up playing Mortal Kombat and I love it. Now, it pains me to make this video and to give this critique on MK1. Now, the first thing I'd like to talk about is the gameplay of MK1. Now, I believe that the gameplay of MK1 is good. It does have its issues with the cameo system, sometimes not being the most appealing to everyone. But I say, coming from MK11, this is an improvement. I don't think it's as good as MKX, but from MK11, it's more fast paced. I feel like it's more responsive. It's just easier to play. Although MK11 was easier for beginners. Now, however, my gripe with the cameo system is not that that system is bad or anything. It's that I feel like NetherRealm had the potential to do better. We don't deserve, trash. We had great in the past with the tag fight system from Mortal Kombat 9, as you see on the screen right now. Now, when you look at the tag fighter system, you have so much potential that you could do. Say you're playing with your friends. You don't need to go up against them and fight all the time. You could go maybe 2v2, and fight alongside them, calling in their fighter, and imagine the cool combos you could do. Now, the cameo system I don't think is bad, but when you have the tag system, I say that there's no point in putting the cameo system when you could just bring the tag system back. And on a side note, the cameo system did really improve from launch. I feel like there was a lot more variety and a lot more cool stuff you could do with the additions of cameos like Farah and Mavado and Janet, where you could sort of, with Janet, control them on screen like as if she's like a Cento. And I like Mavado's cameo extension and how Farah kind of jumps on, the character's body and does stuff. So it does have its good stuff, but like I said, the tag system would have been a better choice, Instead of having Mavado come in and do a move and leave, he could have been an actual character, a DLC character, and we could have been fighting alongside him and actually controlling him with his own moveset, It just seems like a lazy cop-out, and implementing Towers of Time mechanic into the main game and calling it something new. So my next issue would be the story mode. Now, going into the story, obviously you would have low expectations because, oh, this is a fighting game, we focus on the gameplay, blah blah blah. However, I would argue that Mortal Kombat games were sort of known for their stories because what set them aside from other fighting games at the time were their chapter-based story. And a lot of people liked them, we were going into the story mode. It was interesting seeing how everything went down, chapter 1, Johnny Cage, and then you go along his journey and do fights, And I feel like they really fumbled the story with MK1 and with Chaos Reigns. Now I'm gonna be going on a big rant on the story, and the big thing is it was set like a movie. I say the first half of the story was really good. It was really good. I enjoyed myself, but in the latter half, when all that multiverse shit was coming into play, it just became too much, This is the first game of the timeline, Liu Kang's timeline. We don't want other timelines coming in and invading our timeline because this was supposed to be a soft reboot. We're supposed to explore Fire God Liu Kang's new timeline, and I want some games of actually exploring his timeline and actually diving into the new timeline's lore. I don't want to explore his timeline for just 10 chapters, half a story mode game, and then all of a sudden get confused because other timelines are coming in and merging. I thought that this game was just gonna have, you know, uh, a reboot where you're fighting Shang Tsung. He somehow is defying his destiny, and you defeat him, and that's it. That is basic, and that's what I feel like we needed. We needed a break from all this timeline warping and mixing stuff. And if they were gonna do this timeline stuff, I say we wait some time before we do it. I know at the end of MK1 we had this, Avengers Endgame final battle. It was supposed to be Armageddon Part 2. The world is ending, our timeline against Shang Tsung's. But I feel like this is kind of, it just went too fast. We could have like a final battle like that. We could do timelines merging if we wanted to, but at least let us develop a relationship with our current timeline and just this whole thing feels like an invasion season, and we'll get into that. We could have that final battle, but have it in MK2, MK3, MK4, or something like that. Now, going on to invasions. Now, with this sort of mode, it was supposed to be like a tabletop RPG. You go through these different nodes and you do battles along the way. It was going to replace the crypt. But I feel like the invasions mode gets very stale very quickly. There are too many nodes of too many similar looking fights. Oftentimes are bullshit. With characters having infinite armor or something like that. You gotta be a character specialist or pull some bullshit of your own to actually stand a chance against them. Now, the supposed story for Invasions is supposed to be like a rival Titan comes from a different timeline and is invading our timeline, and we're supposed to stop them. That's the essential plot of it. But when you look at even the main story and the expansion, Chaos Reigns, they don't really differ from Invasions. So you could argue that, the main story with Shang Tsung invading was technically the first Invasion season. You could argue that that paid DLC with Chaos Reigns and that Havoc story, it was just an Invasion season brought into cinematics. So with that in mind, I feel like it just really means nothing. The story means nothing now. Characters just come back from death. You know, anything that happens, I don't care about because I know that, Katana is one of my favorite characters. Katana dies, oh, I'll just pull some bullshit and grab her from a different timeline. I really don't like stories like that, and it really just makes this whole story meaningless, in my opinion. And next, I want to talk about the competitive identity of Mortal Kombat. Now, I feel like Mortal Kombat always had a strange competitive identity. I mean, it's huge casually for just the everyday player, but competitively, I feel like it's so niche compared to Street Fighter 6 or Tekken 8. When MK1 launched, it had to compete directly with some of the strongest fighting game releases in years. Street Fighter 6 did amazing. Tekken 8 was pretty good at launch. Now, Street Fighter 6 delivered like incredible netcode, strong balance, and amazing tools for its players. And same with Tekken, the training mode was amazing. And MK1 just felt like it was kind of patching itself together. When top players started expressing frustration with balance and support, the viewers follow, and the just FGC momentum didn't stick. And another thing is the monetization. Now, remember in Injustice 2 and MK11, both NetherRealm games, you could make these awesome variations with your character, especially in Injustice 2. In this game, it seems like most skins you get are just palette swaps. In this game, you have premium skins, paid fatalities, high cosmetic prices, and it shows because the community reaction was loud. It wasn't that community monetization is new. That's kind of the standard now for, games, live service games. But MK always had a strong single player casual base. I could argue that there's even more casual players in America for Mortal Kombat than, say, Street Fighter or Tekken. And charging premium prices for things that used to feel unlockable, it just rubbed everybody the wrong way. And it shouldn't be in an MK game, period. Next NetherRealm game better not have any major monetization. And to end off, I just want to talk about the content drought that sort of happened towards the end of the lifespan of MK1. It's happening right now. We kind of have radio silence as there are rumors. I'm not sure if it's confirmed or not, but that there was a lot of canceled content for MK1. Now, if this means that we're gonna get a better MK game or a better NetherRealm game in the future, I say let's go. You know, cancel MK1. We'll have Injustice 3 and have it. So yeah, I know that this video has been mostly harsh, but MK1 always does still have a place in my heart. You know, it really blew up my channel, and I really loved bringing back, you know, the 3D era characters and have them revitalized and have them in the new timeline like Reiko, Ashra, Natara, people like that. I just hope that whether the next game is Injustice 3 or MK2, I just hope that NetherRealm could learn from these mistakes, hopefully, because I know the future of Mortal Kombat is sort of uncertain due to the whole, you know, Netflix thing and whatever, but I do have hope. It is still one of my favorite franchises. I recently got a PC and started playing MK9. That's where I got all this footage from, and I'm loving it. Now, with all that in mind, this is just what I want to talk to. Let me know if you want to see more commentary videos in the future about any topic, any game. I'm always down for that. Now, Mr. Frosty Flames out. Make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Thank you.